Three, two, one.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of Grok Talk, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. We are your feared, extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio, microphone stomping, conservatives, and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com.
Grok Talk.
And he said all that without moving his lips.
I did. Did you notice that? I didn't move my lips once. Welcome back to Grok Talk, episode 100. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter. Please do. We do use it. We do updates. All our posts go up. And just search Grok Talk. Granite Grok, not Grok Talk. Grok Talk doesn't have its own. Granite Grok, and you'll get all that good stuff. And as a reminder, Spreaker, TuneIn, iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and of course, GraniteGrok.com. Or on YouTube, my YouTube channel, at least for now. You can check out this and past programs, and there are about 2,000 hours worth of them. So, you know, it's a slow day. Check out GraniteGrok.com and catch up on some politics. You'll be surprised what we've talked about over the years and who our many, many qualified guests have been. But
we'd be surprised what we talked about.
We would too, because I've gone back and looked and I'm like, we got to have them on again. So, former Representative Emily Sandblade with the Women's Defense League. You guys had a press conference this week.
Yes, we did,
And,
on Wednesday.
Wednesday.
I believe it was.
It was Tuesday.
Was it Tuesday?
Tuesday the 26th, yes.
Yes.
And you had a poll.
Yes,
that you guys
we did
a real poll. You didn't just, ask a bunch of people in a room. You had an actual poll.
We did the usual scientific poll where we selected quite a number of voters at random, 833 it turned out.
Yep, over 800.
And we got some very interesting results, from this poll. And this was a poll where, we didn't know any of the voters that we asked. It was all very, very random. And we called people all over New Hampshire and all the counties all over New Hampshire. And we called people regardless of voter registration, regardless of gender. It was just one of those polls that we wanted to find out what people in New Hampshire really, truly thought about the issue of concealed carry permits. This is in relation to SB 116, which the House and Senate both passed with good-sized majorities, and the governor is saying that she's going to veto it. And the reason the governor said she was going to veto it is because of one question in about a 40-question poll by Public Policy Polling that asked, do you approve or disapprove of concealed carry licenses? And the majority of people answered yes. And this was taken, this was extremely out of context. And people didn't, it was out of the blue. People didn't have anything, any background or anything about it. So we decided that because the governor was going to base her veto, or she was apparently basing her veto on the Public Policy Polling poll. There's way too many P's in here.
Pretty preposterous public policy poll.
Yes, it was a pretty preposterous poll.
Put the word push in there as well.
Push poll, public policy poll. All right, anyway, before we screw that up.
But we decided that we would really see what people really thought about it, so we went into a great deal more detail and asked people what they really thought about different scenarios and different situations.
We posted all the PDFs from the press conference. You can see all the polling data online. You can probably get it at Women's Defense League. You can probably see it on the Facebook page. I know Kimberly Morin posted it. I had it up minutes before the press conference went live. So there's plenty of places to look for it. But we're going to go through this because this is pretty good stuff. We definitely
have it at the Women's Defense League. I actually don't represent the Women's Defense League.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
No, I work for the Women's Independent Majority Polling Project. So, and I'm the statistician for them. Mm-hmm. So
can't imagine
that's what
why.
I do. Oh, it's just all that math and physics.
Yeah, just a little STEM.
Yeah, just a little STEM.
So
it wasn't Common Core.
Oh no, God no! Can you imagine? We'd be looking at pictures.
Oh, it'd be worse than that.
Tell me how you feel.
Anyway, we had some pretty interesting results. We found out that 88% of the people polled support the right of women to defend themselves with a firearm in a dangerous situation. That was the very first question that we asked people, and we just, we didn't have anything before that. And that's a pretty good indicator that people really do believe that in a life-threatening situation that a person should be able to defend themselves with a firearm.
Well, certainly.
That's a reasonable mode of defense.
And that really removes all the presumptions that come with questions before it. You're asking a simple question. Should a woman be able to defend herself, period, first of all, but with a firearm in a dangerous situation? There isn't any fluff in there. There's no debate. There's no fine-tuning, crazy. It's just a question, and the answer is 88% of people in New Hampshire that you polled are like, yeah. And who wouldn't? I don't know about the other 12%, but...
Well, there are some people who don't believe that human beings have a natural right to defend themselves. There's some people out there like that.
So, in other words, take a walk in the woods and the bear should win.
Yes, exactly.
Yep. They work at Greenpeace, the World Wildlife Federation. Sierra Club.
I have no idea. We didn't really explore what people's political background was or what their biases were.
Sarah Brown from the Green Alliance. I don't know if you got that email, the one where she puts in her own little blurb inside it's a form email that they sent out, 50 of them to every rep. It's just the exact same thing except Sarah Brown from the Green Alliance put in a little, in the parentheses, probably all crazy white male, conservative white males who are all beating their wives and have guns and are out of control. And this is what she put in her email, and this got around, and we published it. I think we discussed it on this program, and it was a racist, sexist comment, and we made sure that the public found out about it, and hopefully more people find out about it.
And meanwhile, the poll of women says women and folks in general says they overwhelmingly support the right of women to defend themselves.
Oh, absolutely.
But not the Green Alliance, which is supposed to be an environmental group. Yeah,
just slightly over half, 50.7% or some number like that, were female in our poll. And so, it was pretty evenly divided, which is pretty much what we expected. Mm-hmm. We did ask a number of other questions. We asked how people thought about what they thought about Vermont's concealed carry lack of permit. And most people either thought that it discouraged crime or that it had no effect at all on crime. We're talking about 89% thought that. And about 10%, it was just slightly over 10%, almost 90% of people thought that it had no effect or had a positive effect. And about 10% felt that, for some reason, it encouraged crime. But you've got 90% of the population in New Hampshire thinking that Vermont's concealed carry permit is really okay, or the lack of permit that they have.
So are 10% of Vermont's population criminals, and they're the ones that would not want the rest to have guns?
I was wondering that. Usually I'm used to the idea that 1 or 2% of the population would prefer not to deal with like an armed homeowner or an armed woman, if they were threatening her. I don't think that the criminal population amounts to 10%. Usually, in most places, it's around 1 or 2%. There's not that many bad apples in the barrel, and if we can deal with them.
That was tongue-in-cheek, as in criminals oppose concealed carry.
They certainly do.
Well, they certainly do, because it really increases the risk of what they want to do. Yeah. And I'm of the opinion that a lot of criminals are really risk-averse. They also happen to be work-averse and a lot of other things. But
well, they are, and that's why I always tell people and make sure, have a dog if you can. If you really, unless you're allergic or something, because a barking dog will deter a burglar. They'll go to the next house. They just
actually did a study of that at one point.
Did you? Yeah. Well,
Years ago.
If we have time, we'll get to that. Let's keep talking about this.
Okay. We also asked a question, and it was a really big deal question to us. It was something we really wanted to know, and we said that the state law, we did our research, and it turns out that the state law that governs concealed carry right now was set up to prevent union member Irish and Italian and French Canadians, which we didn't have the research at the time but discovered later that French Canadians were also in that group. It was set up to keep them and their families from having concealed firearms. It turned out that in 1922 there was a major strike, 12 to 14,000 workers at the Amoskeag Mills. The strike was a very bitter strike. It went on for 9 months, and when the legislature was next in session, they quickly passed the concealed carry permit system. into law. And the idea was that the police chiefs of whatever town or city you were in would suddenly be able to deny anybody the right to carry concealed. And it was used to great effect, of course, in Manchester, because union members weren't able to get, if the police chief found out that they were union members, they weren't able to get concealed carry permits. And so we asked people if they supported or opposed the ability of the local police to make decisions about issuing permits based on their judgment of suitability, which is what the law says. They get to decide what suitability is. And suitability isn't even defined in the RSAs. So, and we asked, can they do this even when such decisions can be based on political, union membership, gender, or racial bias? And 71% of the voters are opposed to police being able to issue permits, concealed carry permits, based on their judgment of suitability. And that's in spite of the fact that people, over 70% in the PPP poll says, yes, the police should issue concealed carry permits. Of course, we know that there was no context provided, or it was just out of the blue, question out of the blue, isolated, and that was it.
If you have the choice between no permit and the police issuing the permit, then it's probably a good idea to let the local police issue the permits. If the choice is between not needing a permit and having the local police have discretion, then the vote goes the other way.
Yes, and that's one of the things that I think that Maggie is trying to ignore, when she talks about vetoing this bill. We also asked we had some interesting things. I found out statistically one of the interesting things that happened was that 23% of the voters who supported issuing permits, out of the 30, about 29% or so, they also believe that Vermont's concealed carry policy either discouraged crime or had no effect. So I thought this was a pretty good case of cognitive dissonance, where we recognize that another state that doesn't have any concealed carry permits, that doesn't believe in that system, and we're getting more and more states that don't. People can see that it works, that there's really no problems that come about because they aren't permitting everybody. And yet they still want permits.
Yeah, I don't have a permit because I don't want to be on anybody's list. I'll carry open if I have to.
I understand that, but one of the things that came up at the press conference was that if you're walking down the street and you're what, about 8 or 10, 12 inches taller than I am. I'm a 5'0" woman. This morning I weighed about 120 pounds. So, and I'm for the viewers who, or for the listeners who don't know me, I happen to be, shall we say, late middle age. And if I'm walking down the street on the other side and you're walking down the street and we're both open carrying, I'm much more likely to get harassed, or somebody may attempt to steal my firearm, or a number of other things may happen as a result of that, or I might get swatted because I would be a much more attractive target. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that concealed carry permits do is they discriminate against women, which is why the Women's Defense League was very much in favor of doing this poll. That's why it was so important to them to do this poll,
right,
and to understand what the situation was with concealed carry permits in public opinion.
Right.
And
because of the old adage about the armed society being a polite society, and if you don't know who's carrying, you'll be at least initially polite.
Oh, absolutely. There's no question about that. But the other thing is that women tend to be the victims of violent crime, often enough. And unfortunately, we're not physically able to defend ourselves quite as well with our fist or with our strength as men are. That's just the reality. And so rather than cower hiding in our houses, which is an unrealistic thing to expect us to do, we can use the great equalizer. Mm-hmm. And we have the ability to defend ourselves using a little bit of technology. And there is no reason why we should be discriminated against in our ability to defend ourselves. And yet concealed carry permits clearly do that.
All right, we're going to take a really short break, and we'll follow up on the rest of the poll when we get back.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested, riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at gerardatlarge.com. Be sure to tune in.